Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks. Past National Commander Couts, and I have no idea if Past National Commander Miller is still in the room. There he is in the back of the room. Commander, officers, Madam President, auxiliary members, my fellow American Legion family members, it is quite an honor to be here. And I first want to start by thanking you for your hospitality, for both myself and my aide, Mike, who is around someplace taking pictures. We have had a great time learning more about the Department of Indiana, and we have been having a lot of fun, too, getting to know some of you a little bit better. It is so strange to be in Indianapolis and not be downtown, so it's great to be out here with all of you before we go downtown for the rest of the week. I want to talk a little bit about my theme of family first and why I chose that theme, because obviously we are a family. But it all starts with our relationship that we have with God, and then it's our personal families that we had while we were growing up. But when I went off to basic training, I got terribly, terribly homesick. And the thought of being able to call my parents after the first week of basic training, and I cried for the whole phone call. And my mom was so supportive of me, and I have no idea how she managed to listen to me cry for so long on the phone. But somehow during those conversations, she helped me understand that the women that I was in basic training with at Fort McClellan, Alabama, were my new sisters. And that I needed to start depending on my new sisters like I did on my family that I grew up with. Because through basic training, we learned that we had each other's back and we took care of one another, and we made sure that we succeeded in everything that we did during basic training. And when it came time to leave Fort McClellan, Alabama, and move on to Fort Lee, Virginia, I felt sad and I was homesick again, going to miss my new sisters. And I went to Fort Lee, Virginia, and there I got a new family, new roommates, new people in the barracks, and every place we went from transfer to transfer in the military, we got new families. And then there came the time when we left the service. And when we left the service, we landed up in a town that I didn't grow up in. It was actually a state that I didn't grow up in, and my husband Mike and I were sort of not really part of the community yet, but there we were living there. Both of us had taken an oath to protect and defend the nation, and no one ever said we were done with that task. So there we were in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, not really feeling a part of the community, when we realized that there were others in that community who had gone through the same experiences we had, namely going through basic training. That's what made us a family, and we found the American Legion family, and they welcomed us in, and they helped us grow and become part of a new family and a new community. And the beauty of that was that our son was able to grow up in the American Legion family as well. And he had so many grandmas and grandpas. It was amazing, that family connection we had. And we worked in the community, and we did all of the great, great work this great organization does, and we worked the 4 pillars, and we learned as much as we possibly could. And then September 11th happened. And as we're working in the community, and we realized that we had this another family that we needed to make sure we took care of. We were taking care of veterans and their family, and we were always talking about taking care of our military and their families. But really, when 9/11 happened and our National Guard started to get called up, and all of those families were being left with a hole, with a member missing from their family, we again stepped up to take care of, embrace more families. So when we would go to deployment ceremonies and we would ask our military personnel, our heroes, what we can do to make sure that they have one less worry on the battlefield, their answer was always, always the same. It was always, please, take care of my family first. They didn't worry about what trials and tribulations they were going to face overseas, because you see, they were well trained and they had the equipment they needed. They were worried about their families here at home and making sure they were taken care of. So family first. And as you see all of the military personnel as they're working together, all the branches of the service, to make sure that we have a strong national security and our military forces are fighting very strongly together. All of the branches started working together, the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, the Coast Guard. As they all started working together and they started training together, they said the military purpled up, because when you take all the colors in those uniforms, you mix them all together and you get purple. So when it came time for me to try to figure out what color the membership shirt would be for this year, and I think of my theme of family first, and I think about the American Legion, the auxiliary, our Sons of the American Legion, and our American Legion Riders, and I think of the colors of all of our hats, and joining forces to be stronger and to work together, it just made sense that purple would be the color for the current year. So that's why the American Legion family is purpling up this year. It's to show that we're joining forces as an organization, as a family, and we're not only joining forces amongst the American Legion family, we're joining forces with our military personnel, and it just so happens that the color for military kids is purple. Now, through the work that we're doing with our military families over the years, I've had the opportunities to actually see some of the work that the American Legion family is doing. And there was one particular instance. I was at a Veterans Day celebration, and the speaker for that day was a Gold Star father. And as he was talking about his son who had been killed in Afghanistan, there was a little girl that was in the middle school choir who was sitting right next to the stage. And this little girl in the choir started to cry. And the more the man spoke about his son, the more upset she got. And I sat there trying to figure out what this relationship could possibly be. And I was hoping that that wasn't her grandpa talking about her father, because I thought that's just not fair to a little girl to have to sit through that. The more the man talked, the more she cried, and the more upset she got. And the more her friends tried to comfort her, she was really upset. And pretty soon the teacher finally saw her, and the teacher brought her out of the choir and took her to the back of the room where her mother was. At the end of the whole service, I was still so curious about what was the story of this little girl. And the mother and the little girl came to me. Now, I was one of the only Legionnaires there. I had my Legionnaire cover on. And she came to me, and the mother asked if she could give me a hug. Still confused, of course, I said, sure, and she gave me a hug. And the mom explained to me that right after her husband had been deployed, there'd been a fire in their house. And not only had there been a fire in her home, their hot water heater also went out around the same time. And as soon as the American Legion family in that town heard about what had happened, and they had been paying attention to the military personnel and the National Guardsmen who had been called up from their area, as soon as they heard that there was a fire, the American Legion family stepped in, and the American Legion family helped clean up, and then they helped rebuild, repaint, and bring that house back to the normal condition. And not only that, but the American Legion service officer came in and helped fill out a temporary financial assistance form to replace the water heater in that home. Now, I thought, man, that's really, really something. And I was so proud of the American Legion family, and she wanted to give me a hug for all of the support that our family had given to her. But then she went on to explain, because she knew that in her mind, the American Legion family were heroes to her, because she felt that we saved her husband's life by doing that. And not only that, but we helped keep the unit that he was over safe also, because she knew that she got to call her husband and tell him how great the American Legion family was in their hometown, because there was a fire and how it was all cleaned up and the water heater was replaced and everything was good. Had the American Legion family not stepped up, and had she had to call her husband and say, there was a fire in our house and the water heater's out and I don't know what I'm going to do, her husband would have taken his mind off of his mission, and he may have also taken off his mind off of the orders he needed to give the men that were under him. And by taking his mind off the mission, there's a good chance he would not have come home safely. She understood that that's the difference that the American Legion family made in her life and the life of her husband and all of the men that served under him. Now, what's the rest of the story? Because all this while, I'm thinking, well, that's really fantastic, but what's going on with her daughter? Why was she crying? And I heard that her husband was home safely. He's retired. He has a good job. Everything was good. But this little girl, as she sat in the choir, this little girl, when her dad was deployed, she was the oldest of 3 children. And as the oldest child and a vacancy in the home when her father left, she was asked to step up and take on some adult roles in the family. And this little girl knew, a middle school child, knew that part of her responsibility was to make sure that her brother and sister didn't worry about her dad. And so in the process of making sure that her brother and sister were okay, she had all of these emotions and all of these fears that her dad wasn't going to get home safe, that her dad might have gotten killed in combat. All of those emotions that she had pushed down for each of his deployments, as she sat and listened to the story of a soldier who didn't come home, all of those emotions came bubbling out of her. And the more he talked, the more upset she got over thinking that she thought she wasn't afraid about her dad, but she really was. And she finally released all of that. And her mom never realized what she was holding in all those years. Now, once again, the American Legion family had the opportunity to say, we need to make sure that this little girl gets some help. So we helped connect her up with some counseling for military families. And the little girl got her counseling, and then the family got counseling, because it really was a whole family issue. That little girl today is a normal little girl. But not only that, but she steps up and helps other military kids understand that it's okay to be worried about mom or dad, but it's also okay to be a kid while they're gone, and to live a normal life, as normal as they possibly can. That's the American Legion family. That's what we do, and that is who we are. Now, there are a lot of misconceptions about what the American Legion's all about. They don't understand about our 4 pillars, how we're taking care of our veterans and their families, our military personnel and their families, taking care of the children of this nation, and our Americanism programs. All of those fantastic programs that we have, American Legion Boys State, American Legion Auxiliaries Girls State, our baseball programs, our shooting sports, our oratorical contests, all of those scholarships we do, all of those individual little things that you do in your post that make a difference in this community, and all of our youth champions that we have, our communities don't necessarily know that that's what we're doing and that's what we're all about. They have this terrible misconception. So on Veterans Day and every day that you possibly can, I ask you to please open your doors to the community, especially on Veterans Day. Open your doors and invite the community in so they can see and they can understand exactly what it is that our great, great American Legion family does each and every day. Invite them in. Invite them in, and then, as an added bonus, with the help, I'm sure, of your technical staff, post on social media that you are serving the community and how many veterans that you are taking care of that day and how many family members. and how many community members are coming in. Because you see, each and every one of you have something very special in your heart that makes you come back to this organization and makes you take care of your community, and you need to help share that information. Someone very special planted a seed in your heart to care about this organization, and I hope that every time you come to meetings like this or any time you're doing American Legion activities, that you're remembering that person who planted that seed in your heart to make you care. And then I hope that you're taking just a little piece of that or a big piece of that and passing that love of this organization, this family, onto someone else. And as you pass that seed and that hope and that information and mentor, I hope you're helping to grow this organization one person at a time as you continue to mentor everyone along. Because you see, every moment that you spend on American Legion family activities is a statement of faith. It's a statement that you believe in our organization and you believe in what we stand for. Because together we are making a difference in this nation. So I thank each and every one of you for the moment and the time that you spent in uniform. I thank you for the time you spent supporting us while we were away. I thank you for your current service to this nation, and I thank you for your continued service for this nation. But what I really want to do is thank you. I want to thank you for always putting our families first. Thank you. I have just asked for a moment of privilege, so if you please have a seat. Now, what some of you may or may not know, every year the National Commander candidates, there's 2 years worth of campaigning that goes on, and when you're the leading candidate, the candidate is responsible for transportation from the Sheraton Hotel for the Legionnaires up to national headquarters. And in the last couple of years, the leading candidate has had to rent vans from a rental place and spend lots of money to do that. And last year when I came to visit, I talked to then Adjutant Hugh, and I said, you know, I just realized how many vans the Department of Indiana has and wondered if it'd be possible to save the campaign some money to use one or two of your vans. And Hugh and the rest of your executive committee said yes, that we could use the vans. Now, the last time, as we were leaving headquarters last spring from those meetings, and we were being rushed out because we had to go someplace else, the last time I saw that van, it was parked in front of national headquarters with a flat tire. And we just left town. So, but Danny Rice was helping with it, as you know, and all the post members helped drive back and forth. But because of the savings that we had and not having to pay a rental agency for those vans, I would like to, on behalf of my campaign, Team Wisconsin, make a $500 contribution to IVETS for you.